Supposed to love your brother like yourself and not hate him like yourself.
Right, and it has to do with the destruction. So we're looking at sefer-haaggadah, and the second entry here on page 143 is Al ma harva haaretz. What brought about the destruction?
153.
Yeah, 143.
Yeah.
There's a famous story. Al kamtza uvar kamtza harva Yerushalayim. There were two people. One's name was Kamtza, the other's name was Bar Kamtza. So the symbolism of the name Kamatz in Hebrew is to close your fist. The closed fist called likmotz et yadecha. The Torah says in regarding the ani, lo tikmotz et yadecha me'achicha evyon. Don't close your hand as not to give to another person. So Kamtza or Bar Kamtza represent the people who refuse to give to each other. מעשה באדם שהיה אוהבו קמצא ושונאו בר קמצא. He had a friend by the name of Kamtza and an enemy by the name of Bar Kamtza, the son of Kamtza. So very easily confusable. It's like Kohen and Kahan. עשה סעודה, אמר לשמשו הולך והבא לי קמצא. So he had a wedding probably or a party, and he told the shamash, please invite this man. Of course, he didn't say only invite him. He gave him a whole list of people. Now, in many communities, it was really the role of the shamash, especially in Syria. We know that there was the family Shamosh. The Shamosh knew everybody in the community. So when there was a wedding, today the people sit together and they go over names, the parents of the bride, the parents of the groom, especially if they're from the same community, who should come, who shouldn't come. Back in the day, it was up to the shamash. He would go. He knew exactly to which simha, to which occasion he could invite in the name of the family, the people. Usually they wouldn't make mistakes. They were like the social workers for the whole community. They knew exactly their relationship. In this case, though, the man made a mistake. Instead of inviting the friend, he invited the enemy. So the man came to the party. The name Bar Kamtza, the Ba'al HaSeudah, the man who had the simha, the occasion, saw that his enemy was sitting there and eating. Amar lo harei soneh ata li, u'ma lecha kan, amod v'tzeh. You're my enemy, what are you doing here? Get up, get out. So get up and get out. This is very embarrassing. You think about in front of everyone. Amar lo ho'il uvati haniheni, ve'eten lecha demei kol ma she'ochal ve'eshteh. He says, you know what, let me just stay here as in a restaurant. I'll pay you for my portion. Don't embarrass me, please. Amar lo, lo. So he refused. Amar lo, eten lecha demei hati seudatecha. I'll pay not just for my portion, half the meal, whatever you serve for all the people, I will pay for half of it. Amar lo, lo. Still insists, no. Eten lecha demei kol seudatecha. I'll pay for the whole event. He says, no, tefaso beyado, amido v'otzio. He grabbed him by his hand and he pulled him out. So this is a terrible story. It's a famous story, but I want to look at a couple of elements here. The one who was called enemy didn't really hate the person who was doing the party. How do I know that? Because he came when he was invited. He showed up. If you really don't like the other person, you don't show up. When the shamash came and said, my master or this man invites you for the party, this Bar Kamtza was very excited. He says, maybe it's time to reconcile. That's an opportunity. He goes there. So this is the first breach of the man who was holding the party, was that he didn't realize that this man, the other person, doesn't really hate him and he wants to make peace. And this is something that really, on our everyday life, happens very frequently. That we have to sometimes try to understand where the other person is coming from. And when they try to apologize, try to reconcile, to give them an opening. Of course, if one apologizes and repeats the same offense, then we know it's not serious. But at least we have to give the first chance, which in this case, he didn't. Now, most people tell the story and stop here. They think that The reason for the destruction was that the people were treating each other in such disparagingly manner. They embarrassed him publicly and so on. But the story goes on to say, Amar bar Kamsa, Ho'il ve'yashvu hachamim ve'lo mihubo, miklal shenoch lahem. He says the rabbis were sitting there, and no one said a word, so they're happy. They're comfortable with the situation. Now I'm going to take revenge, and I'm going to badmouth them to the in front of the Roman emperor. So the real problem was not the behavior of this individual. The Bar Kamsa, the person who was offended, would have gone home and said, okay, this man is violent, he doesn't think of how, or he's tactless, he doesn't care about how I feel that I'm embarrassed in front of a whole community. But the fact that the rabbis were sitting there, and the rabbis should have been objective, they should not have a side in the argument to support that man or the other man. They sit there and they say nothing, it means that they don't care. It's fine with them. That this in their eyes is permissible. This is terrible. So for him, it marked the demise of Judaism as it should be. Because like I mentioned earlier, the whole idea of the Torah is ve'ahavta kamocha, love your brethren as you love yourself. Who would want to be embarrassed publicly? This is the last thing we want to do. If you put a camera on a busy street and you catch people stumbling, people go and they fall over something, or they run into someone or hit a pole or whatever it is that is uncomfortable. You know what the first thing they do when they get up or when they get out of the situation? It's not cleaning their clothes or anything. First they look around to make sure that nobody saw them. This is the most concerning thing. People could fall, and roll a couple of feet and then, okay, nobody saw me, I'm good, I'm not embarrassed. So for him to be embarrassed publicly and the rabbis, for them not to care, so they're not scholars really. This is not Torah, this is not the way. So this is where Rabbi Yochanan says that brought the destruction. So what did he do? So he went to the emperor and he said, the Jews rebel against you. Mardu doesn't mean past tense. It means they're rebelling against you, which was true. The Jews were constantly in a state of rebellion against the Romans. The emperor says, as long as I don't have hard evidence, I don't want to deal with it. Send them a sacrifice as a gift, and let's see if they will sacrifice it. So the emperor sent with this man the choicest calf that he had in his disposal. בהליכתו הטיל בו בר קמצא מום בניב שפתיים, ויש אומרים בדוקין שבעין. So what this בר קמצא did, he was already on a journey of revenge. So he's going to indict the whole nation. So what he did, he cut, according to one tradition, he cut the lip of the animal. According to another one, he cut the eye, or hit the pupil in a way that makes not poked his eye completely, just scratched the pupil of the eye of the animal, which is for. The Romans also were aware of the fact that you don't sacrifice a sick animal, but for them, sick would be missing a limb or really sick. But something like that, which is hardly visible, a cut lip or a scratched eye, would not be considered a blemish. But for the Jews, in the Jewish halakha, it is a blemish. So now he comes with this, and he doesn't come alone, or he does come alone to the temple, but the Roman entourage is waiting for him, maybe at the entrance of the temple. They still respected the temple. And he comes in and he shows the Kohanim, here's the calf sent by the emperor. Please sacrifice it. So the experts, Kohen, who examines the animals for blemishes, he looks over the animal, and as we say, oy vey, he gets to the front, to the lip, or to the eye, and the animal is disqualified. אמרו חכמים להקריבו Mishum Shlom Malchut. So the scholars who were there said we should sacrifice it because otherwise the emperor will be very upset and we will be in danger. אמר להם רבי זכריה בן אבקולס, יאמרו בעלי מומים קרבים למזבח. They will say, people will think that you set a precedent that an animal with a blemish could be sacrificed. Now the truth is that people would not have said that because any animal would have first to pass the scrutiny of the Kohanim. You shouldn't be afraid, shouldn't fear such a possibility. But Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas said, no, this is not a good idea. אמרו להרוג את בר קמצא, שלא ילך ויספר למלך. They said, okay, let's kill this guy, בר קמצא, because obviously he set us up. Let's get rid of him, which is easy. They could, I don't think they were planning to kill him and burn him with everything on the altar, but they had methods of doing that. Remember I told you in one case that Kohanim, since the position of Kohen Gadol was bought by money, with money, the Kohanim did not like one of the candidates and they basically drowned him in the mikveh. Some say in the mikveh of the temple. So they had methods of getting rid of people. Yeah. So they wanted to kill him so he doesn't go and tell the king. אמר להם רבי זכריה, יאמרו מטיל מום בקודשים יהרג. People will think that the punishment for maiming an animal is that, and that's not good. So we have what are we going to do? We're not going to sacrifice the animal. We're not going to touch him, and let God do what has to be done. אמר רבי יוחנן, ענוותנותו של רבי זכריה בן אבקולס החריבה את ביתנו ושרפה את היכלנו והגלדנו מארצנו. Rabbi Yochanan concludes the humility of Rabbi Zechariah, who refused to either sacrifice the animal or kill the messenger, destroyed the house and burnt the temple and caused us exile. Now, obviously it's not his fault. We start with the whole story. The Gemara says it's because of Sinat Hina, because of this animosity between Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. So why do they conclude with saying that it was the attitude of Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulas? Because there's a motive, a theme that runs here in the story, which is the actions or non-action of the rabbis. The reason that the men got so upset and decided to take revenge against the whole Jewish people was not that his enemy insulted him, embarrassed him, but that the rabbis did nothing. So you cannot be a rabbi, you cannot be a scholar or a leader of a congregation, of the nation, and be passive. You have to take action. You can't say, oh, it's a complicated situation, I don't know what to do. In case of doubt, just do nothing. There's no such thing. If you do nothing, it means that you're doing something negative at a certain point. Even if you don't take physical action, you have to voice your opinion to let people know that this is not right. For this, and it's not an easy thing. I admit, I had a situation like that once where I spoke with students in school. It was about a certain item in the news, and one of the congregants of a nearby synagogue, not my congregant, but a very powerful man, who also funded the school where I was teaching, came to me and said, I'm very upset with what you said because this is not what we teach our children at home. Now, our children, he means his children. There were different opinions in the school and different opinions in politics, and I voiced my opinion. And I answered him. I said, listen, your mistake is that you think that the rabbi or the teacher is your mouthpiece and is supposed to say what you're thinking. And I think that the role of the rabbi is to be an educator and to say what he thinks is right. We're welcome to accept it or not, but I cannot play by your, to cater to your whims. But in this case, the rabbis decided this is what they're going to do. They're going to keep quiet, and that is also the end of the story. What was the end of the story? Once he brought this maimed animal to the temple, and there are some rabbis who say we have to take action, we have to either sacrifice the animal or kill the messenger. Rabbi ben Avkula says, we'd rather not do anything. Because if we take action by sacrificing the animal, people will think that it's okay. If we take action by killing the person, people will think that this is okay. So we'd rather do nothing. So at the end of the day, when you combine the two stories, you realize that what brought about the destruction was, of course, the animosity between the people, but also the passivity or the passiveness of the rabbis. For them not to do a thing, both when Bar Kamsa was embarrassed, or when they had the opportunity to deal with the man who brought the main sacrifice, this was what brought eventually destruction. So, like we mentioned before, the statement from Pirkei Avot, "B'makom she'en anashim, yishtadel liot ish," that within a larger context of the nation or the community, yes, sometimes you have to defer to the leader. And when you see that no one takes action, no one does what has to be done, you have to rise to the occasion and do something.
But there's a question, Rabbi.